high fashion's velvet curtain just got ripped wide open. One day, Chinese factory bosses were humble backbenchers on TikTok. The next, they were front-page villains, boasting that they stitched the same Birkin you mortgaged your soul. 4. Then watching the internet melt down in real time. Hermes's halo shattered overnight, and the brand panicked. Within hours, word dropped that the French powerhouse allegedly hurled a lawsuit the size of a Birkin 35 at those mouthy manufacturers. No warning, no handshake.
Almost finished bags from China factories. Back to their own factories and just do the repackaging and logo installing, something like
just courtroom missiles. And that, folks, is where the real fireworks begin. Swipe. Once, and you saw it. Factory aisles, laser cutters, orange-tinted hides stacked to the ceiling. Same supplier, no logo, the foreman barked. Millions hit replay. The claim? 80% of luxury handbags quietly roll off Chinese production lines before getting a Parisian passport stamp. Viewers felt duped. Headlines screamed Birkin Betrayal. Comment sections were lava. Some buyers boxed up their collections that night, swearing they'd never be fooled again.
Luxury bags carefully handcrafted in China. The viral TikToks from Chinese factory workers, the internet is now in a frenzy over claims that some of the most iconic designer bags are actually born in the...
But that was just the spark. Hermes lawyers didn't send a polite cease and desist. They carpet-bombed. Paris-based counsel filed for defamation, trademark dilution, trade secret theft, and digital trespass all in one swing. Plaintiffs, 3 Guangdong leather firms, and TikTok itself. The message was brutal. You mess with the orange box, you pay in euros. Overnight, TikTok yanked dozens of factory clips. Hashtags vanished. Accounts froze.
But the finishing touches on a Kelly, the most difficult bag to build. It starts with 30 distinct cuts of leather and can take 20 hours to complete, 4 hours for just the handle. There are no manuals or cheat sheets. Artisans rely on their training and muscle memory to make every bag.
Yet the attempt to bury the scandal backfired spectacularly. Screenshots of the lawsuit leaked. The Streisand effect kicked in. Now everyone wanted those videos. But Hermes never expected the factories to fire back with cold, stamped paperwork. The next dawn, PDFs flooded Discord servers. Purchase orders dated 2023 with the code H51X, material specs matching. Clements leather, freight logs routing through Shenzhen to Roissy. Then came crisp HD photos of component bins labeled HMS Buckle.
So Hermes has put out a response to China, and they have like a video in a factory sort of showing people trying to show that they're actually the ones who are making the bags in a factory somewhere in France.
Brushed palladium. The factories claimed these were pulled straight from the production floor, evidence that Hermes quietly outsources hardware and pre-cuts to China, then finishes assembly in France to preserve the coveted Made in France stamp. Luxury. Lovers gasped, collectors zoomed in on serial prefixes, anti-corporate activists roared, and somewhere in Paris, an executive spilled his morning espresso. The noise was so loud, even the celeb world couldn't stay silent. Reality TV tycoon Bethany Frankel jumped on Instagram stories.
I spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so.
You mean I spent 6 figures on French craftsmanship and it was half-baked in Guangdong? Corporate greed at its finest. Kylie Jenner dropped a cryptic tweet over a split photo of a Birkin in the leaked factory line. Rapper Cardi B joked on X that she'd rather buy the real fake bag at wholesale. Overnight, the dark luxury scam tag blasted past 200 million views. Late-night comics feasted, even sneakerhead channels started dunking on handbags.
Our artisans, they need to do 4 years of training to be able to manufacture a Kelly bag. This that you've just seen, the perlage, you need to be very skilled and very...
Suddenly, Hermes wasn't just in a niche scandal. It was public enemy number 1 in pop culture's morality play. And when pop culture turns, markets bleed. Trading desks felt the tremor within minutes. Hermes International shares slid almost 7% in 2 sessions, wiping billions in market cap. Analysts issued jittery notes about opacity risk. Auction houses postponed high-profile Birkin. Lots terrified bidders would vanish. Consignment platforms saw sellers dump inventories, triggering a price free fall on once bulletproof models.
Some of Hermes products are made in China. Towels are from Fuji in Shandong. They also make products for Chanel and IKEA. Beddings are from Yue in Shandong. Men's shoes are from Shachi in Shandong. Tableware are from Gaochun in Jiangsu.
It was my first time shopping at Hermes, and let me tell you how it went.
We got a lot of requests, do Hermes next. And that's why we're here in the Highland Park Mall. In Italy, made in China. Or maybe made in Chile. Oh yeah, that should be a thing, by the way, because some brands get real creative when it comes to...
Even LVMH and Kering caught collateral damage as investors feared a domino expose. Luxury indices, usually insulated from macro storms, suddenly looked fragile. Corporate greed had never felt so expensive. Inside the boardroom, heads started rolling. What was supposed to be a quiet quarterly check-in at Hermes Paris headquarters quickly turned into a 5-alarm meltdown. Insiders say the April meeting was standing room only. Executives flown in early, NDAs slapped on assistants, doors locked tight. What went down inside that marble-walled boardroom was nothing short of a corporate execution. Senior VPs from marketing and product development reportedly came in swinging. They accused the supply chain division of reckless negligence, claiming they greenlit unvetted overseas suppliers without proper compliance audits, all to shave a few percentage points off costs. But the bombshell came when one furious director dropped a thick dossier on the table. A stack of internal memos, Slack screenshots, and vendor contracts outlining so-called strategic sourcing partnerships in China. These weren't just minor accessories or raw materials, these were full component assembly deals approved at the highest levels. And they dated back years. Legal counsel didn't sugarcoat it either. He warned the French Competition Authority, already rattled by antitrust murmurs in luxury resale, could open a full-scale probe if even one document linked Hermes to deliberate mislabeling or greenwashing. Worse, the leaked TikToks and factory invoices could trigger EU trade investigations for false origin declarations. The company's Made in France claim, its holy grail, was suddenly radioactive. Within 72 hours, 2 high-ranking procurement executives voluntarily retired. Internally, everyone knew they were pushed out. One had been with the company for over 18 years. The other had quietly managed the Asia sourcing budget through a network of shell vendors now plastered across Reddit threads and TikTok exposés. Emergency offboarding was so rushed that one executive's nameplate was removed while he was still in the building. But the fallout didn't end there. A source close to the situation says the CFO's office is under internal review, with a forensic audit tracing which executives signed off on China-based subcontracts. The CEO, usually untouchable, is now ducking questions from LVMH's Bernard Arnault, whose private texts allegedly call the scandal a preventable humiliation. Luxury giants like Chanel and Dior aren't just watching, they're panicking. Internal audits were ordered across the industry in a desperate attempt to prevent the next viral takedown. One rival executive reportedly told Le Figaro, "If Hermes falls, we all bleed." And bleed they did. Stock portfolios dipped. PR firms worked overtime. Boardrooms once obsessed with exclusivity and aesthetic suddenly had to grapple with something far uglier. Accountability. It was no longer just a supply chain slip-up. This was a full-blown reputational hemorrhage. Trust, once the currency of the luxury elite, was now melting faster than a lacquered crocodile clutch in a monsoon. But the juiciest secrets were still hiding within the global supply web. Follow the shipping logs and you enter a shadow economy built on cardboard aliases. One subsidiary, Dragon Luxe Sourcing Ltd, lists a Hong Kong address that's nothing more than a locked mailbox above a dim dumpling shop. Dig into registrar records and you discover it's majority owned by a Luxembourg holding firm chaired by a retired Hermes VP. Meanwhile, a cluster of Shenzhen tooling shops file quarterly statements showing zero domestic sales, even though satellite imagery catches delivery trucks rolling out every dawn. Investigative accountants call it phantom invoicing. Rawhides are booked as furniture leather, rerouted through a paper mill of Vietnamese brokers, then reborn in Parisian warehouses as heritage material. Customs data sleuths added visuals, a blood-red heat map where leather tonnage from Guangdong spikes every quarter before Hermes Paris workshops announce limited edition colorways. The correlation is brutal. It screams coordination, not coincidence. And while the CFO boasts of single-origin hides, environmental watchdogs sampled runoff near Dongguan tanneries and found chrome levels 6 times China's legal limit. The same tanneries proudly display framed purchase orders bearing the initials HMS. That toxic cocktail flows straight into the Pearl River Delta, obliterating the brand's much-touted eco-pledges. Labor stories are uglier. Former line, workers posted on Weibo that they stitched handles for 14 hours a day, earning less than the price of a Birkin's tassel. One whistleblower claimed bags that failed inspection weren't trashed. They were slapped with a new internal code, shipped to France for finishing, then sold as flawless. When her post went viral, the account vanished within hours. Screenshots survive, circulating in sneaker and handbag forums like radioactive contraband. The myth of hand-sewn ateliers on the Avenue George V collapses when you realize the hand often belonged to an underpaid teenager 6,000 miles away. First the markup stung, then the masquerade cut to the bone, and that raised the billion-euro question. Investors push for speed. Sustainability funds already threaten divestment if toxic effluent reports prove true. Gen Z buyers, who worship transparency over tradition, signal they won't bankroll secretive giants. Meanwhile, vintage resellers lick their wounds as secondary prices nosedive. Without trust, rarity means nothing. Even rival labels eye the fallout. Gucci and Chanel scramble to audit their own subcontractors before TikTok sleuths turn the lens their way. So the house of Hermes teeters. It can pioneer radical transparency and gamble on a kinder future, or cling to century-old secrecy and risk turning iconic orange into a cautionary hue. Right now, the power sits not in Paris boardrooms, but in every shopper's scrolling thumb. If those thumbs keep swiping past the orange box in disgust, a dynasty falls. But if Hermes shows every stitch, every worker, every river sample, and prices reflect the real story, maybe, just maybe, the Birkin legend can rise again. Only one thing is certain: the next move will decide whether luxury's most guarded secret becomes its own undoing, or its improbable rebirth. Luxury always sold two things: craftsmanship and a story. This scandal ripped the story to shreds. The receipts are out, the lawsuit is live, and the internet is sharpening its knives. Whether Hermes doubles down on court warfare or finally opens the factory doors, one truth stands: the next time you see that orange box, you'll wonder which continent stitched the seams and who's pocketing the difference. The era of blind trust and billion-dollar marquees may be over. What replaces it? Transparency or total collapse?